Gary, you know him well. This is going to be a very intimate portrait of Cristiano Ronaldo, because when you get to that level of fame, everybody has a perception of you. Everybody thinks they know what you're like. What's your experience of him?
Incredibly driven. I mean, I knew him more professionally than personally. I couldn't claim to, even though I obviously played with him for many years, and you get close to people and you understand them. You obviously don't know him from a home point of view, but what you do understand is that his drive was out of this world to become the best in the world. He's one of the very few players that I've played with that would publicly announce that the individual trophies were important to him. Every time a player receive an individual trophy or going for an individual trophy and get asked about it, they always would say, no, the team's more important. It's more important that we win this for the team. He was absolutely driven that, no, I want to be the best player in the world. And the reason it's important that I am the best player in the world, because in turn it will help my team. And it was a different angle in terms of looking at it. And he just wanted to be the very, very best in the world, and it's so important to him. And what he's done over many, many years is just absolutely exceptional. I know we can't talk anymore about Ronaldo and Messi and what they've done in these last 5 or 10 years, but it's so special. His achievements are amazing, and he's worked hard for it.
Well, when we talk about that Ronaldo-Messi, and when we have that Ronaldo-Messi conversation, one of the things that's often used almost to his detriment is that drive when people are talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. And it's almost as though that overshadows the natural talent that he has.
Yeah, it's an obsession, absolute obsession with scoring goals, applying himself every single day, being the fittest he can possibly be. I think he's lifted his professionalism every single year and progressed, understanding that I've got no doubts he will want to play. Jamie mentioned before about James Milner wanting to play to sort of his late 30s and 40. I think he has a plan to go on and take over Pele's record. I genuinely believe he wants to go and beat Pele's numbers. That's where I think he's at in his mind. I think he wants to be the greatest of all time, and that is his sole purpose, understanding that along the way, if he is the greatest of all time, the teams that he plays in will win trophies and be successful.
Jamie, do you remember when he first came on the scene in the Premier League, and what your first impressions of him were?
Yeah, I think I'm saying the first game he come on. I just remember a game against Bolton, I think, at Old Trafford, where Alex Ferguson brought him on. He was doing lots of step overs and different things, and he took a little bit of criticism, I think, early on. And I think that's where the management of Alex Ferguson, the experience of young players and the development is, he was a master at that. He had Ronaldo and Rooney at a similar age, really, and you knew he was going to be a really good player. Did we feel, or anyone feel, he'd get to the level that he got to? No, I don't believe so. And to be honest, I think that was maybe even a surprise for Alex Ferguson, the level he's got to. I think when he signed him, he thought one of the best young players in the world. Not many ever fulfill their potential, really, where you think they're going to go. But he's just massively overachieved as well. Really, it's not just about being the best player in the world at one stage. I mean, as Gary said, him and Messi have dominated that for 10 years, and that takes some doing. That's not your ability, that's your mentality. And to be honest, I think that's the biggest attribute I can give to Cristiano Ronaldo. It's more his mentality for me, which is the thing I admire most in his ability.
How would you approach playing against him?
I can't really remember coming up against him too often. I think when Ronaldo came, I'd moved more to centre-back, and he was out wide. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think he was ever at his best in those Liverpool games. We were a really good side and strong defensively. I think we used to talk about him in terms of set pieces and free kicks, and I always remember we had one when Ronaldo was scoring so many free kicks. I think the last couple of years at Manchester United, we actually talked about actually putting the wall deeper than 10 yards. That's something that we did in training, and I think we did it in the game where Ronaldo he was one of the first, he used to do this, the shot where he used to just dip over the wall. So if you'd actually change the distance of the wall, it makes it a little bit different for him. He's only just realising that when he puts the ball down and maybe the wall's 12 or 13 yards back as opposed to 10. So it was always more with set pieces with Ronaldo rather than something specific in general play. I think in the main, in general play, we weren't too bad. Really, but he was a huge threat, and to be honest, I think he was a better player at Real Madrid. I think he moved on a level length from what he was at Manchester United, and we never came up against him at Real Madrid.
Gary Carra says he doesn't think he was at his best in those games against Liverpool. When was he at his best for Manchester United?
In that, was it 6-7 season, when I just thought he was absolutely breathtaking. He had fire in his belly, hunger. When you see a player go from someone that, to be fair, you almost feel like giving up on them, which few of the players in the dressing room did, and I include myself in that. It was so frustrating in that first couple of years. And then all of a sudden, it starts to happen for him after that 2006 World Cup when he came back having winked at Wayne Rooney, having been sent off. That showed you a little bit of a glimpse of his winning mentality. He didn't really care about the fact that he was playing against a club teammate. And I think then you look at that season, that was a season where all of a sudden, all the what would be negative aspects of his game that you could point towards, which were mainly defensive aspects or dribbling and taking one touch too many, just completely disappeared. Because I was talking before about James Maddison, about his numbers, goals and assists. Once a player starts getting 30, 35 goals, and once a player starts getting 15, 20 assists, you can basically put up with absolutely anything from them. And that's what happened in that season. It was just breathtaking. He won us match after match after match. And I've said before, in a 2-year period, I've never seen anything like it. And I've watched Manchester United from 1979. I've never seen anything like it on a football pitch at Old Trafford that I saw in those 2 years. It was out of this world. Very rare you can say at a club that you've seen the best player in the world, bar none. We had the best player in the world in that season, I believe. He was absolutely unbelievable.
So to go from frustrating to breathtaking, what happened? Was it about the leadership of Sir Alex Ferguson? Was it about him, or was it something that changed in him, in Ronaldo himself?
No, I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson and Carlos Queiroz, I think it's really important to put Carlos Queiroz in the category with Sir Alex. They were both champions of him. They both believed in him. I think that he came back from that World Cup that summer and it was almost like everything had changed. His maturity and his decision-making, which was a big thing, his experience, his physical attributes just completely changed overnight. He went from someone who, if you look at his early pictures at Manchester United, he was scrawny, really thin, wiry, didn't look very strong. And all of a sudden, I think it was after that 2006 World Cup, he came back almost like a super middleweight boxer. His body just had completely transformed. He was absolute incredible. And from a strength point of view and a plyometric point of view, the ability to leap, the ability to score with his head, the ability to change direction, everything just seemed to fall into place. It's just a maturity physically, mentally, and everything that happened with him. And from that moment on, you knew that he obviously was going to be something really, really special. And you say it was brilliant to watch. I say because there was a point where I remember actually going into the gym after one training session, speaking to Mike Clegg, who worked very hard with Cristiano physically in the gym, and saying to him, I don't know what he's going to do next. He didn't know where he was going to be defensively. He didn't know when he was going to release the ball. The players in the middle of the box didn't know when he was going to cross it. It was erratic. But they had great faith in him, Sir Alex Ferguson, Carlos Queiroz, and they believed in him. They put him forward. They thrust him forward in front of players that potentially had greater reputations at the time. And he eventually developed into something that was just absolutely brilliant.
You mentioned the wink. Were all the England players waiting for him to come back to training?
No, the first day back in pre-season, I was called into the office with Wayne and with Cristiano by the manager to sit down, and he wanted to see whether there was any problems, any hangover. They actually were really good friends. They actually used to socialise together, those two, Patrice Evra, Rio Ferdinand, Cristiano and Wayne were very close to each other. And actually it felt like, because the whole of the country was against him, it did feel like a bit of a David Beckham type moment in our dressing room, whereby there was this thing about England and Manchester United anyway, with England fans having a go at United players whilst they were playing for England. So there's no love lost there anyway. And I think when David Beckham came back from the World Cup in '98, everyone rallied round him at United. It was the same with Cristiano in 2006. Everyone seemed to sort of come together, and it seemed to help him in some ways go and prove everybody wrong. I think he does like proving people wrong. And it was from the very first day of pre-season. It was the first morning of pre-season. We were called into his office and I was there, and they shook hands, said there's no problem whatsoever. And Wayne, to be fair, Wayne's knowledgeable enough to know that ultimately on a football pitch, anything goes. We had that mentality ourselves at the football club at United. You try and do everything you can to win a game. And if Cristiano was trying to win for his country, Wayne wouldn't expect anything different, and neither would I.
Cara, can you understand that sort of rallying behind your teammate, feeling like the world's against them?
Yeah, and of course, I think we've all been in situations like that before, when something happens within a dressing room and a club, and sometimes clubs rally round someone because you just think that's the right thing to do, and then you look back and you think, maybe it wasn't at that time, but that's your first instinct, and that's that's exactly right what Gary's saying. I think that probably happened probably a lot more at Manchester United. The probably big characters they had there, and you think back to the Cantona situation as well, years before as well. And I think that's what football clubs are about. You try and stick together as much as possible, and certainly paid dividends for Ronaldo, Rooney and Alex Ferguson.